So one of my memories of Grandma, that's a favorite one, is the day that I learned that Irene Yoder Nice was not a goddess in work. Because growing up, the woman, it just seemed like she was constantly working, always getting the job done, always getting housework done, and going about it cheerfully all the time. So one day she showed up at my house, and I have 6 children, right? And she shows up, and I was unprepared for that visit, and my house was a disaster. The laundry monster was in full-fledged glory, and there was tons of laundry everywhere. There was dirty dishes. The house was a mess, and I was like, great, my grandma just pulled up unannounced. So she starts walking to my door, and I start to warn her of what she's about to find. Like, Grandma, I'm sorry, the house is a mess. It's all crazy, and the kids are, busy and whatever. And she just says to me, I did not come here to see your house. I came here to see you. So just don't even worry about it. Ha ha ha. She would normally do, just in her cheerful way. So in she walks, and she just starts doing what she does. She starts doing dishes, and she starts folding laundry and just doing stuff and helping me out. And she told me a little story. She said, when my mama one time told me, Irene, we're going to get up early and we're going to go pick beans or something like that. And she told me, be up early, we're going to go do this. And she called me early in the morning, and I was still in bed when she called me. And so all the way to the phone, before I answered the phone, I was going, hello, 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 so that my voice would sound like I was awake. And so that Mama wouldn't think I was lazy in bed. And that story just like totally bolstered my confidence that I don't have to be a perfect mom. I don't have to be as great as I even think she was or whatever. I just, she's a normal person too. And she just came right alongside me and helped me that day, and it was very special to me. So, yeah.
My favorite memories of Grandma, it's probably Grandma and Grandpa a little bit, is getting to stay the night at Grandma's house. So it took me a few times of staying the night at Grandma's house to actually get to stay the whole night, because I'd wake up in the middle of the night and be scared. So like my dad would have to come get me. I remember that happening a couple times. But then once I found out how much fun it was, then it wasn't a problem. When you stayed at Grandma's house, you got to sleep by the light of a lamp. What do you call that? The gas lamp. The lanterns. Yeah, the lanterns that had the kerosene lanterns. That's right. And for a little kid to get to play with the kerosene lantern is awesome. I mean, whose grandma lets them do that? She is so awesome. And then the next morning when you'd wake up, you'd hear Grandpa putting wood in the stove downstairs. It was a big, huge furnace, and you could hear the clunking of the wood, and it'd be warming up the kitchen, and you could smell breakfast cooking, and Grandma would make you whatever you wanted for breakfast, and that was a lot of fun. And sometimes you would get to have eggs and even oatmeal or cereal. You could have whatever you wanted, or Swedish pancakes. I think they were roll-up pancakes. We got to have those. And that was fun. And then it was also, I do remember, like, Grandma and Grandpa would read their Bible in the morning, and they would pray, and they'd pray for their families, and they also pray for the country's leaders. And I know that Grandpa would always include that in his prayer when I was there. I just remember him saying that, and it was a great memory to get to stay at Grandma's house and get to do things that you didn't get to do at your own house. So that's what I remember.
I'm not quite sure how I'm supposed to pick one memory of Grandma. She truly was the most amazing, perfect grandma. And I just want to warn you all that I've been accused of telling stories like Irene, so I may wind around a bit, but bear with me. Like I said, she was an amazing lady, and I had the privilege of growing up in the same church as her. I got to sit with her during church. Her and Grandpa always sat on the left-hand side, way up front. And let's just be honest, sitting in church as a 6-year-old is not always the most fun, but Grandma truly made it fun. She would give us gum when we sat by her. It was always the green Wrigley's gum. So we'd get the gum and then we'd lay on her lap and she'd scratch our back. And she always she had a hanky. Grandma was never seen without a hanky in her hand, I don't think. And so when we were sitting in church, she would make babies in a blanket. And so I just want to show you the babies in a blanket, just to show you what Grandma did. So she took her hanky and she would make a triangle out of it. And then, I don't know if you ever saw Grandma fold clothes, but it was pretty amazing. She'd brush them out and fold and refold, and I don't know, maybe she ironed her hankies, I'm not sure. But, so this was her babies in a blanket, and it's just one of my fondest memories of sitting with her in church, and I'm gonna miss her so much. I'm just glad that she's with Jesus now.
I just, growing up, with just so many different memories of Grandma and Grandpa, and spending time with them, spending the night at their house, and just specifically about Grandma. One of the things I loved about her is that she was a hard worker, and I heard one of my other cousins mention that, how much work she did, but how she was one of those people that loved to work. She loved to do the work, and one of the things I always remember about her is that whether she was by herself and I was with her, or with a group of women in church, they'd be working and all of a sudden I'd hear this humming and I was like, okay, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, here come the hymns. The hymns are coming out. Grandma's singing all the old hymns that she used to sing, growing up. And I was like, and it was like just so cool because Grandma was never very far from God. In whatever she was doing, and I think that was one of the biggest inspirations for me, was just how close she was to God all the time, and how close she was to Jesus. There's so many memories, I can't share them all, but that's one that always sticks out in my mind. Is just all of a sudden just hearing her break out and humming, and all of a sudden she's singing, and if I knew the words, I'd try and join in, and I always had a lot of fun, even if we weren't doing a whole lot, just being around her and Grandpa both. I remember I'd be there at the house with her at nighttime, and we'd be waiting for Grandpa to come home from work, and it'd be fall or winter, and it'd be dark out, and all of a sudden here's Grandpa's pickup coming down the old '64 Ford Chevy coming down the driveway, And I just have a lot of great memories of being with Grandma and Grandpa, and that was one of the memories that really stuck out with me, is just the joy that she had and everything that she did. And she always tried to keep Jesus close to her no matter what she was doing.
Irene was a wonderful grandma, as all of her grandchildren know, as you've heard from a lot of us so far, and there's more to come. And I'm going to go back to childhood memories. My childhood memories with my grandma and my grandpa was that I always wanted to come stay at Grandma's house. I mean, every weekend if I could. I had cousins, I had grandparents. I had everything. The one thing that I can always say is Grandma and Grandpa always, no matter if I was good or bad, I was always welcomed the next phone call. Always. I mean, it would be, Shane, you know what, you're welcome to our house, you're more than welcome to come. It didn't matter how much in trouble I was the week before, what uncle showed up at the driveway, I still was able to come to Grandma and Grandpa's house. And to go into some few things with my grandma now is, I always had uncles that were truck drivers and a dad that was a truck driver, and Shane always wanted to be a truck driver, and I actually went into that field for a while, and Grandma and Grandpa always had hard hats hanging on the stairwells as we were going up and down the stairs, and Grandma's like, you want to be a truck driver? And I was like, yes, I want to be a truck driver, Grandma. And she's like, all right, well, go grab one of those hard hats and put you on a hard hat like they do, like your uncles do. And my Uncle Ken had a truck for sale, a grain truck for sale out in the parking lot. And I remember Grandma actually having to go out there and almost push me up into this truck, because I was, pretty young at that time. And I got to sit up in that truck and pretend like I was shifting gears and I was a truck driver. And if it wouldn't have been for her, I would have never got that experience to be a truck driver. And it went from the truck to riding lawnmowers to, and we always had the hard hat on, or I don't know if my cousins did, but I did. I always had to have the hard hat. And she's also, and then it went to driving the cars down and forth, up down the driveways, to driving down Loganberry Lane, and that was Grandma. She taught me a lot. And
I could go on and on and on about a lot of different amazing memories I've had about Grandma Yoder. I could tell you about the time that we spent out in the garden picking beans, and how she helped me snap the beans and taught me to snap the beans, and how she let me use the vegetable peeler when my mom didn't think I should and I cut myself. But of course I didn't do anything wrong, because I never did anything wrong with Grandma. I could tell you about lots of different things, and how she would let go of the steering wheel when she was driving and clap her hands to scare me and thought it was funny. I don't know why you did that, Grandma, but it's funny now looking back. But every memory that I have of Grandma, what I've noticed is usually my Grandpa Roman's involved. And I think what sticks out to me the most about Grandma is not only her love for Jesus, but her love for her best friend when I was growing up, Grandpa Roman. And they had so much fun together. I remember them joking about everything. I remember them making peppernews together, and Grandma would make them and cut them, and Grandpa had to put them in the exact right spot, Irene. I remember being over there in the evenings for dinner, and them conversing after dinner and talking about things for hours, and, well, what day did that happen on, Irene? And, well, I don't know, Mom, and back and forth. And they just enjoyed life so much together. And it really was an example to me of what unconditional love was, what it meant to be completely in love with your husband and enjoy his company, and build a beautiful family. And my grandma just had this amazing knack for making everything fun, whether it was dishes, laundry, picking beans, being with family. She just made everything joyful. And that's what I remember most about my grandma.
Okay. I have a fond memory of my grandma as we were going grocery shopping, and we were headed from Matt into Sheridan, and she, of course, driving her with her legs crossed, and we are coming home from town, and out in the field were a couple of deer, and she decided to stop out in the middle of the highway, and decided to say, "Hey, Crystal, look at all those deer out there." And I said, "Grandma, we really need to go because somebody could rear-end us." But that's one of my funniest and fondest memories of my grandma.
I've had many amazing moments and many stories from Grandma and Grandpa's house, but one that I think of every now and again that I'll share is the day that I learned that jackass was not a bad word, wasn't a bad word at all. In fact, jackass means a male donkey, and that Shane and I were to quit acting like a couple of them and straighten up, or Grandma was going to call her security team, which consisted of Dad, Uncle Cliff, or Uncle Ken. So needless to say, we straightened up for a little bit. Grandma, she was an amazing woman, and I feel so blessed to be able to call her Grandma, and she will be missed, and I love you, Grandma.